Okay, so it's no secret, unfortunately, that there's fewer female leaders than male leaders in all industries today. What are some of the challenges as a female leader in healthcare that you've come across, either when you were building something in a prior life or in building Cadence out today?
Yeah, so I think that women in leadership, whether it's healthcare or other industries, the numbers speak for themselves. There's not a large percentage, but I also believe that is changing. And I think one of the ways to change that is that we have to build a bench with more diverse candidates in order to impact the leadership or the C-suite or the board seat, either one of those. And in the past, I don't believe that there has been a good amount of candidates that has helped do that. So when I think about that, I think about women leaderships, and I would say challenging. One of the most challenging parts is networking. It can be a challenge. Like it's different from women in business than it is for men. I mean, the old days of going to have a cocktail or going to have a drink and having a male have his buddy and being very safe. You have to think about that differently when you're talking about a woman and a man, just the dynamics of that. So you have to figure out how you're going to network that allows you to build relationships that get you to the next level. So you have to build relationships, you have to build trust in order to, one, get your name out there and for people to be comfortable with networking. I think there's a ton of smart women out there. I think they just, I think it's just a matter of networking in them and getting names out there so they can, build the bench strength, and you can get to your C-suite, and then you can get to the board level. And I do already think that we've made a significant amount of progress in that in the past couple of years. You think about it, if you start with the school, you look at universities, majority of students now are women. I mean, it's right over, it's right over. If you think about the workforce, the majority of the workforce is women right now. And these women will continue to want to grow in their paths. And that's going to further, level out the playing fields at the C-suites and at the board level. I think it's just a matter of time, that will take to get there.
And along those lines, either for entrepreneurs like yourself or maybe hired guns that are running a unit or a business for other shareholders. I mean, do you have any other advice for women, regardless of, if they're an entrepreneur or just a corporate citizen running a business? Any other advice? And I guess another question is about risk taking. Like, do you feel like the system is set up for men and women to take equal amount of risk in their pursuit of either being an entrepreneur or being a corporate CEO?
Yeah, so that's a good question that you ask about risk, because I think it's really common, and I'm going to generalize right now, and I don't like to, but it's definitely a theme, is that when I talk to young women and they ask for career advice, they put a lot of emphasis on being perfect. Maybe it's the way that girls are raised versus boys. I mean, there's a lot of thoughts on the why behind it, but being perfect. If you're worried about being perfect, you're automatically thinking about, how do I decrease my risk? And so you're not, if you're worried about being perfect, then you're really not, maybe you're not as much as a risk taker as others. I think it's a DNA of us. I think it's the DNA of just people, of whether you're risk takers or not. I happen to be a big risk taker. I always have been. And, I just happen to be a woman. So I think that the theme is, when I do talk to young women, they worry about planning everything out and being perfect. And you just, in reality, you don't have to. And I would argue that you limit your learning if you try to plan everything out and be perfect, and you lower your risk. You go into certain scenarios and you don't know the outcome, but those are the kind of scenarios that we learn the most from, and they're always good, regardless of whether we fail or we win. We always win because we're learning, we're growing. And so my advice I give to young leaders is that don't lose sight of the journey that you go on. Don't try to plan it because you'll miss it. You'll miss out if you try to plan everything out. So continue to do the right thing every day. Network, get your brand out there. Don't, figure out what your value statement is if you're looking at starting a company or, joining a board. Figure out what your purpose is and what value you bring to the other people at the table. And then just go forward and don't try to be perfect. Don't try to figure everything out. It's more fun when you don't.
Totally. So in closing, just any other, I guess, systemic changes that you think people ought to be thinking about to give women and really, others that they may not have had or aren't represented from an equal shot in statistics, a head start for leadership roles within pharma services, which is where we spend our time, or just in general?
Yeah, so the couple of things that I would say that we need to do in the pharma or the health space, and that is, stats show that a diverse board and a diverse leadership proves better results. So when we look to hire or build our leadership team or hire into our leadership team or hire into the board or whatever it may be, there's a certain comfort in hiring people that are like you, and try to step back and think about the diversity that they bring to the table and how that will challenge you versus how they are like you. And I think if we do that, I think we'll be more successful as businesses out there. It's not the easiest thing to do. It's definitely outside of our certain comfort zones, but filling that funnel with diverse candidates will allow us to have diverse organizations and diverse thought process. And again, the stats show that does lead to better outcomes. So follow the numbers, they don't lie.
That's right. Artemis, thank you so much for just your time today, and for us really being a part of your journey. I know you'll continue to be successful, and I can't wait to see where the company is a few years from now. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Banks. Thanks for your support. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a good one.